Okay, everybody, thank you very much for coming. 7:30, time to start. So thank you very much for coming. Some of you have come before. Thank you very much for your loyalty. Some of you have not come before, so we hope to see you in future. Please come again. Maybe I'm not on. Maybe the mic is on, but I'm not on. I will try to be on. Okay. So what I said was, some people have come many times before. We're very, very grateful for their loyalty. We hope people who are coming for the first time will come again and again and again and again, so that we can thank you for your loyalty in future. Thank you very much. I'm sure it's going to be a very lovely evening, and more of you will make it a lovely evening. So thank you very much for coming. As I already mentioned, the drinks and food service stops now. But when I stop, or when we stop, it starts again. So there's hope. There's hope in the future. Most of you know I'm Gillian, one of the Proverse publishers, and co-founder with my husband Verner Bickley of the International Proverse Prizes for writing previously unpublished in English. Before we begin, I'd like to express our appreciation of the Hong Kong Arts Development Council for their support for the Proverse Poetry Prize 2024. And this is their logo, and this is their disclaimer. They support freedom of artistic expression, but the views and opinions expressed do not represent the Westland. I'd also like to thank our donor, Mr. Joseph Lee. Thank you very much, Mr. Lee, and thank you very much for your support of your presence this evening. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to introduce Proverse authors. Will you please stand up when your name is called? Philip Chatting. Is Philip? And here's a couple of his books. Jason is not here, but this is Jason, and those are a couple of his books. And here is Stuart. Stuart, would you like to stand up? Any other authors I haven't named? You know, Peter is here. He's going to get the glory later. Any other authors I haven't mentioned? Okay. Now, before we go on to the regular part of the program, there are two sad pieces of news. First, Patricia Glinton-Meicholas very recently passed away. She won the Supplementary Prize in the very early days of the Proverse Prize. I found out about the news on the internet, and they were describing her as a cultural icon in the Bahamas. We have here 3 people from the Bahamas. Would you confirm? Yes. So I chose one of her poems. We're going to listen to one of her poems, which is called A Conversation with God. And maybe she's having that conversation now.
Conversation with God. It's not easy to broach a conversation with God, with your compass determinedly askew and you struggling to steer clear of the shoals and reefs crowding your life. It's not easy, pot boiling over, antediluvian dog barking at ghosts, scared up by canine dementia, squalling child on one arm, husband finding solace in the arms of commerce and a tight-bodied bimbo. It's not easy to engage a being who calls himself an uncompromising, often incomprehensible, all-encompassing I am. But one fine day, my courage stoked to a shaky boil, making every effort to squelch the squalls, dismiss the demented dog, dispatch spouse, business, and bimbo to the ash heap of inconsequential memory. I began, Lord, free me. He answered in that stingy, clipped fashion, he has used with success from Genesis to Revelations to discourage questions requiring revealing pre-apocalyptic replies. Free yourself. Then, relenting, he said in his best Bahamian, "Darling, what you want? I give you free will. Is you choose to entertain the cheat, birth the child, and feed the dog. But daughter, my phone number in the book. I no civil servant, you know. I just answer all calls with no political beef, and my grace is enough for you."
Rest in peace. So the next news concerns my husband, Verner Bickley. Yesterday would have been his 99th birthday, so we chose this date for the Proverse Spring Reception together. So some of the many tributes that have been received both before and after Verner's passing described, this is not my description, it's what other people have said, as warm, kind, and charismatic, a generous and inspirational leader, a multi-talented and dedicated man, a deep thinker, and a great humanist. Verner had a gift for both the spoken and the written word. He told me he could hardly remember a time when he wasn't able to read, and he didn't remember anyone teaching him to read. He could just do it. As a baby in his high chair at breakfast time, he would avidly read the back of the cereal packets, and he thought his parents probably wondered what they had got. Verner was the fastest reader I've ever come across. He told me he couldn't conceive what the world could be like to those who did not read books. Verner and I met at an event which included a book launch. When we merged households, we found we had many of the same books. We researched and wrote books together. We became publishers. We founded 2 international literary prizes. But Verner did very much more than this. There's going to be a memorial service for Verner on Wednesday, tomorrow, the 7th of May, 3 o'clock at St. John's Cathedral, just across the road. Reception at Zetland Hall following the service. All are warmly invited. You're all welcome to attend. If you do, you'll learn a lot more about Verner than what I said just now. And ultimately, of course, he's the reason why all of us are here. We thank him for his immense contributions in many fields. So, congratulations. A few of his books are up there. Steps to Paradise, which is about his time in Honolulu. Footfalls Echo in the Memory, about his time with the British Council and in Singapore before that. Cultural Relations in the Global Community. Not a very glamorous book, but it's a very interesting book. It was published in India a very long time ago. And Over the Years, which is Verner's collection of 7 book poems. Now, this is Susanna Mori, Director of British Council, Hong Kong, will very kindly say a few words about Verner. And please don't follow me.
Thank you. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real honour to be speaking to you tonight at the Proverse Spring Reception 2025. And as Gillian has explained, this reception is marked by sadness at the absence of Dr Verner Bickley, who passed away in February. But tonight should also be a celebration of Verner's extraordinary life and work. As you know, Verner, along with his amazing wife Gillian, set up the Proverse Prizes way back in 2008. The Proverse Prizes for unpublished writing in English have become an important fixture in the literary scene. They are truly international prizes, which means that anyone, regardless of their nationality, over 18, can enter, regardless of where they reside or what their citizenship is. The prizes are gender blind, and about 50% of winners have been women and 50% men. And age is no barrier either. And winners to date have ranged in age from 24 to 91, which just goes to show how inclusive a prize it is. To be a founder of literary prizes is a remarkable legacy for anyone to leave. But during the course of his remarkable life, Verner made significant and lasting contributions to education, to scholarship, and to cultural relations, as well as to the advancement of the English language and English literature. Early on in his career, Verner worked for the British Council, where he was posted to what was then called Burma, to Indonesia, and to Japan. He was part of a pioneering generation of British Council officers and official representatives, as my predecessors were known, who in the post-war years set up the British Council's international network and developed the British Council's mission to build friendly knowledge and understanding between the UK and peoples around the world through English, through education, and through arts and culture. It is thanks to the foundations that Verner and his contemporaries put in place that the UK still enjoys its position as a leading soft power. In the British Council, Verner's generation has become legendary, and stories still abound about the challenges that generation faced in many parts of the world in pursuit of building friendly knowledge and understanding. They had to be tough and resilient. I recall first meeting Verner and Gillian, actually, about 15 years ago, with one of my predecessors, who you might remember, Bob Nest. I can remember Bob, who didn't quail or quiver in his boots very often, being very much in awe of Verner. And Verner, in turn, had very firm ideas of what the British Council should be doing in Hong Kong. Given Verner's association with the British Council, it's perhaps not surprising that the Proverse Prizes are an exemplar of the British Council's philosophical approach, or perhaps I should put it that the Proverse Prizes and the British Council share a philosophical approach when it comes to the English language. At the British Council, we believe that English is a universal language which, although its origins lie in the British Isles, actually belongs to everyone. In the post-war years, English took on a life of its own, which goes way back, way beyond the UK. It's a tool of communication and self-expression, and like the Proverse Prizes, is open to all, regardless of nationality, residency, or citizenship. Verner, along with Gillian, has done great service to the English literary world through the founding of these prizes, and it is thanks to Verner's vision that many new writers have first come to light, and the prizes have been a catalyst for many literary careers. To me, Verner's biography reads like something out of a William Boyd novel, a life of adventure and achievement. It was a life well lived, and his memory will live on in the hearts of the people who knew and loved him, in his literary and scholarly works, and through the writers he has helped to publish, and of course, in the Proverse Prizes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Susan. So now we come to the regular program. Not yet, Patricia. So, first, but not just yet, first we're going to hear from Peter Coxon-Smith, who will introduce his first book of fiction, Tales from a Contested City. Could you hold us up, Ray? Oh, either of you were holding up, right. So if anybody wants to purchase it now, this is what the students are here for. All you have to do is give them the money and get the book. So you don't have to stand up all the time. You can sit there, and if anybody decides they would like the book now, signal to them, and they'll bring it to you. Is it all right? Is it a good idea? Right. Because I've noticed that once we resume eating and drinking, that becomes the focus. So I want you, while we're focusing on books, I want you to have a chance to get the book. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. And the other book being launched tonight is Proverse Voices 9, which is the Proverse Poetry Prize 2024 anthology. The dates are always very complicated. The 2024 anthology is published in 2024. So, let's read The Voices 9. And this book has got a very nice selection of poems. Some of the poets are here. You'll be able to ask them to sign a copy of the book once you buy it later. Thank you. So, I should say something about photographs and videos. I'm very grateful to Felix Wong and Daniel Behokele, and Holly, but anybody else who takes photographs, for taking photographs and making the video. Is there anybody here who would not be happy with their face being on a photograph or a video? Does everybody here? Yes. You can cover your face if you don't want to have your photograph taken. But otherwise, it's fine for me to put the photographs on the website, anywhere. Can I hear yes? Yes. Yes. Anybody say no? Okay, thank you very much. So everybody is the witness. Really interesting. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce Peter, our new fiction author. Very nice, not yet. Very nice photographs of Peter. He's even nicer in the flesh. So Peter's already published 8 books, but this is his first work of non-fiction. So I think he's really quite excited about it. So I hope you're going to give him a really good evening by buying his book and reading it and giving him good comments about it. In the meantime, we do have some nice comments. So for example, Christopher DeWolf has said, together these 33 stories form a wry, witty and astute portrait of a city unlike any other. It's the kind of thing that only someone with so many decades of experience in observing, recording and shaping Hong Kong could produce. And it shows that satire in Hong Kong is not yet dead. And then Dr. Ying Liu, who's here tonight, has also given a very nice comment about Peter's book. She wrote, it's a fascinating read, full of humorous cultural insights, satirical social comedy, and uncanny in-depth knowledge of this beloved city we all call home. So Peter, please come up to introduce your book.
And here, how do I follow that? I'm not too sure. I'm here really to sort of describe the book, essentially. But before I really start in the comments that I have, would you like to sit down together? Yeah. I've just finished actually reading a biography of Agatha Christie by the wonderful Lucy Worsley, if you've ever read her books. And she stated as saying that the reason she began to write was in order to not having to talk to people, which I thought was quite interesting. I don't know how accurate comment that was about Agatha, because I thought she was really quite a lady at that time. But time moves on, and I think I can say that after writing a number of books of non-fiction, one of the reasons I switched to fiction, in fact, quite apart from the fact that I had nothing more to say about urban design and planning and architecture in Hong Kong, one of the reasons I switched was to avoid things like WhatsApp and Facebook and anything to do with artificial intelligence. But perhaps also to avoid taking Hong Kong too seriously. Someone once said that the falsehoods of fiction, on occasions, unlock the truth of reality. So a book of short stories can have a unifying, but also, I hope, a stimulating effect. Writing fiction, yes, as Gillian said, is something rather new to me. I have written 8 previous books, primarily on cities, with enterprising titles such as The Urban Design of Intervention, The Urban Design of Impermanence, After Dante, and an enterprising path to Barrio Regina, thanks to Juan over there. For those who don't know where Barrio Regina is, it's the heart of Barcelona, where we had a 3-year exchange program with the city. So a change of emphasis was something of a challenge, I'd say. Writing a novel, which I decided not to do, certainly, seemed to suggest spending far too much time on spinning out plots, convoluted situations, and writing about the same set of characters over and over again. But short stories, or tales, as we call them, had several advantages. First, each could be relatively self-contained, within a few thousand words. Second, it was possible to deal with quite different subjects, people, and circumstances. Third, these could all be bound together, as they have been so nicely, in a way that elaborated the narrative of real-life issues or occurrences that challenged further commentary. And fourth, where better to situate a book like this than in Hong Kong, the city that I know best, having lived here for almost 50 years. So there it is. The book quite provocatively, and I use the word carefully, reflects the often confounding personality of the city. It merges what I would call sensitive realities with fictional fantasies, just as it attempts to illuminate hidden corners of the urban experience and the intricate undercurrents of the city that we all know so well, although we don't necessarily comment on them very much. It embraces the serious and the satirical, just as it elaborates a narrative of real life, its challenging problems, its opportunities, and outcomes that we're all, I'm sure, familiar with in Hong Kong. And in this sense, I've gone almost full circle. As an architect and urban designer, it's necessary to acknowledge that it's the people themselves who make the city what it is, rather than the buildings. So in both writing and illustrating the book, I largely imagine people rather than cityscape as a kind of social commentary. Some stories, well, they have a perceptible foundation in fact, while others simply draw on Hong Kong's notorious and familiar quirkiness. I started every story with an open mind, an essential character, or sometimes several, with a less than firm notion of how it would end up. I think all writers have this experience of, well, where do we actually start? And it is surprising with short stories, about the first 3 sentences, you simply note a lot of ideas come to you as you go through. But the beauty of fiction is that the author can choose to accommodate whatever twists and turns might be an offer, or perhaps hidden away in the back of his or her mind. So in summary, the book uses the abstract nature of fiction as a kind of commentary on the chemistry of Hong Kong itself. Finally, I found that really compiling the various tales became quite addictive. I wouldn't compare it to drinking too much whiskey, but it was difficult to stop. So I started thinking about 20 would be quite sufficient. 20 became 30, and I only stopped at 33 because in Chinese it is a lucky number. For those who don't know, my almanac tells me that 33 signifies abundance, it conveys compassion, and blessings for a joyful and positive life. So there you have it. And if you like the book, as I hope you will, there is another one that was good, I'm sure it's going to be my last one in the works. So I would like to thank Gillian, who's been very, very kind and helped throughout. I say because you couldn't be here tonight, by the time who typed it up, but she has over the others all over the years. Ying Ying and Chris DeWolf. Chris is in Canada and can't make it tonight. But thank you for putting together such nice and encouraging reviews. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for coming along. Yes.
Thank you very much. So, I've read them all. They're very interesting. You recognize a lot of interesting topics. You recognize there's various topics in Hong Kong that tells you a story. You'll be very surprised at some of the points that you've expressed. So it's a challenging and interesting book. So that's my bit to try. Thank you very much, Peter. And so, wonderful illustrations. Peter's done all his own illustrations. Very, very nice. Each story has its own illustration. You should mention that too. They're really, really very good. And this is covered too. So thank you very much. So now, we're going to move on to talk about the Proverse Prizes a little bit more, when I can actually get my act together and get this thing to move. Enter. Okay, right, thank you. So Verner's going to introduce the prizes. It's a very nice, short little introduction, which we've been playing for several years now. If I can actually get out of it.
Greetings, everyone. Gillian and I founded the Proverse Prizes because we saw that most literary prizes were restricted in some way. We wanted there to be prizes that everyone could enter. And this is what we created. Anyone, 18 years old or more, male or female, published writer or not, is eligible to enter for the Proverse Prizes, irrespective of nationality, residence, or citizenship.
There you go. Short and sweet. And now I need to say a bit more myself. So Susanna's already said something. Verner has said something. I could just perhaps add that the opening date is the 7th of May every year. The closing date is the 30th of June. There's provision for late entries. There's always somebody who wants to be late. The period for late entries is the 1st to the 11th of July. After that, no more late entries. Right? So that's so the 7th of May is our wedding anniversary. So that's how it helps us to remember. Either the prizes help us to remember the anniversary, or the anniversary helps us to remember the prizes. Verner said you have to have something to hang on to. So there we are. You can get the information from the website, the Proverse website, but also there is an entry submission website, which starts on the 7th of May. So have a look. For the Poetry Prize, we started the Poetry Prize in 2016. That's for poems no more than 30 lines. Sometimes we're a little bit generous. Sometimes a really, really good poem, it might be quite a bit longer than 30 lines. But I guess they wouldn't get the prize, because then that would encourage people to make poems. So 30 lines is quite a good size. Everybody can choose their subject for the book prize. Everybody can choose their subject for the poetry prize. But there is a set prize each year. There are always people who want to be given a topic, and there are always people who don't want to be given a topic. So we cater to both needs. This year, the topic is the gift. The set topic is the gift, G-I-F-T. So please, write a poem. Ask your friends to write a poem, or acquaintances. It's quite a nice experience, I think you'll find. And it can be any format, but some people tend to have very odd formats for poetry these days, and it's really, really difficult to edit. So don't have words all over the place. Try to have a nice, easy format for people to understand, not to show how very clever you are. Now this is the time when we also announce the results of the Proverse Prize 2024. There will be supplementary prizes, and those will be named and awarded in November this year. So no winners of the Proverse Prize last year. We now come to the launch of the International Proverse Poetry Prize 2024 anthology, Mingled Voices 9. Over 50 poets, writing from Hong Kong and around the world, Australia, Canada, Chile, Ireland, New Zealand, the PRC, Portugal, Singapore, the USA, and the UK. Most from the USA. So other countries, step up, challenge the USA. We're very pleased that Mr. Geoffrey Streeter, writer and critic, and recently director of the British Council in Hong Kong before Susanna, 3 years, well, has kindly recorded an interval recent to me. A century, 3 years is he's kindly recorded an introduction to Mingled Voices 9, which we'll now hear. And after we hear his introduction, we'll hear live poets, people who are reading live, and then we'll hear pre-recorded videos. So now we go to Geoffrey's.
A good poetry anthology should, I believe, have a balance between thematic coherence on the one hand and variety of style, origin, and viewpoint on the other. Mingled Voices 9 more than passes this simple test. If not all poets followed the optional suggested topic of together, it certainly emerges as a key theme in the form of family and cultural bonds, along with the themes of loss and memory that might be considered a kind of extension of, and partial antithesis to, the theme of togetherness. As in previous years, the state of the environment remains an important topic for many of the poets. In the winning poem by Zhou Fei, The Poet's Lover, the stunning imagery and often startling language evoke an unlikely togetherness. One night in early July, travelling on Saturn, you returned to your cliffside hotel and saw a tear-stained face in the mirror, like pear blossoms after the rain. This is your lover. There is a sense of bewildering disorder in the poem that makes one think of The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. Yet it ends, despite the starkness of the line, as your coffin rattles along the gravel path, with the affirmation, she is your lover. An Unmarked Grave by William Leo Coakley is also the site for tension between absence and presence, or togetherness and separation. In a poem that has conscious echoes of the Roman poet Catullus' poem about his brother's death, Catullus 101, the person mourned, an American poet, lies in a distant grave, and is visited by Coakley after a journey of so many miles. Death is the ultimate separation, but the visit to the grave brings one fleeting moment of togetherness. I alone, the young one, old but alive, come to bid you our last farewell. At the other end of life, Neil Douglas's Forever Family laments the frustrated motherhood of a woman unable to resist the cycle of neglect and abuse that is working its way through her life, leading to a tragic separation. Not able, not ever to give love of a mother to her baby, who's passed to the arms of another. The dysfunctional family inheritance that Douglas writes about is part of the disarray of the world which poets have bemoaned for centuries. Terry Miller also does this in We Together, but strives for a tone of hope. What harmony we could create, we together. Fighting unjust and hateful wars, the poet suggests, is an avoidable destiny if we show the right degree of solidarity or collective action. It is a fate we could allay, we together. A little like the loss at Coakley Face, Candice Delaveau-Turnquest is facing the undocumented breakdown of togetherness in a lost love, itself perhaps a kind of unmarked grave. But unlike a death, there's no obituary chronicling our moments of bliss. The poem finishes, though, in a beautifully poised way. Each morning sunrise provides a quiet chance to move on, followed by sunsets offering darkness, where I fall apart in the shadows. The rising and setting sun gives us further echoes of Catullus, who wrote one of the most celebrated love poems of all time, Catullus 5, which has the lines, in Ben Jonson's version, "Suns that set may rise again, but if once we lose this light, 'tis with us perpetual night." Nature here is seen as constant, endless, and indifferent to human life's fleeting passage. In The Wounding Gravel by Vinita Agrawal, the poet also suffers from the sunset. After sunset, the night grows white with pain, and she finds little relief or protection in nature. The austere banyan hides its leaves in a tired, dark cloak. Beneath the leaves my aches unfold. How can I protect myself from goodbyes? The tables turn, in a sense, in other poems where human impact on the environment, threatening the steady procession of our natural world, is on the mind of several of the poets. In The Take, by Vanessa Page, the poet observes the people fishing on Galata Bridge in Istanbul, where the fishermen start before dawn, as the choke of fish kills and diesel fumes build. The poet switches from third-person singular to first-person plural to include us all, as tourists, as consumers of the world's limited resources, as we deplete nature with our everyday actions. This ancient city braces under the teeming weight of it, as we all continue to take the photographs, and we all continue to take the fish. Joy Al-Sofi develops this theme in another direction, with the backdrop of a human world that may cite natural processes deceitfully, as in the phrase where there's a promise to keep an agreement while the grasses shall grow and waters flow. This was language used in an 1867 treaty between the US government and the Sisseton and Wapeton bands of the Sioux, aiming to establish peace and define territory for these bands. The treaty would soon be violated by the government. In contrast, the poet looks to the promises made by nature that are true and do last as long as the midnight sun still glows. Finally, though, Wesley D. Sims brings the environment and togetherness and separation all together in 15 ways of looking at the ocean. Here the ocean is seen playfully, world's largest, most visited aquarium. It's also seen ominously as mankind's gargantuan garbage dump. And finally, it is a deeply personal place of togetherness and separation. Last place we vacationed before my love changed course and sailed away. The great American poet Stanley Kunitz once wrote in his collected poems 2000, "Years ago I came to the realization that the most poignant of all lyric tension stems from the awareness that we are living and dying at once." In this rich and varied anthology, I believe that many of the poems achieve the kind of lyric tension that Kunitz was striving for. I hope you will enjoy finding it here for yourself.
Thank you very much.